Now let's have a quick recap about biodiversity and conservation. Threats of biodiversity, human activities and loss of habitat. Human activities are causing a loss of biological diversity among animals and plants, globally estimated at 50 to 100 times the average rate of species loss in the absence of human activities. Two most popular species in rich biomes are tropical forests and coral reefs. And deforestation. Forest ecosystems contain as much as 80% of the world's terrestrial biodiversity and provide food, fiber, and biomass energy, as well as critical components of the global cycles of water, energy, and nutrient. Forest ecosystems are being cleared and degraded in many parts of the world. Then a desertification. Desertification and deforestation are the main causes of biodiversity loss. Both processes are decisively influenced by the extension of agriculture. The direct cost of deforestation is reflected in the loss of valuable plants and animal species. Deforestation and desertation process is the result of poor land management, which can be aggravated by climatic variations. Then marine environment. Oceans play a vital role in the global environment, covering 70% of the Earth's surface. They influence global climate, food production, and economic activities. Despite these roles, coastal and marine environment are being rapidly degraded in many parts of the globe. Then climate change. As climate warms, species will migrate towards higher latitudes and altitudes in both hemispheres. The increase in the amount of CO2 in the air affects the physiological functioning of plant and species composition. Moreover, aquatic ecosystems, particularly coral reefs, mangrove swamps, coastal wetlands, are vulnerable to changes in climate. Overexploitation, climate change, pollution, invasive species, and habitat loss. Pollution acid rain is caused by a chemical reaction that begins when compounds like sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxide are released into the air. These substances can rise very high into the atmosphere where they mix and react with water, oxygen, and other chemicals to form more acidic pollutants known as acid rain. And acid rain has been shown to have adverse impacts on forests, freshwater, and soils, killing insects and aquatic life forms, causing paint to peel. Then corrosion of steel structures such as bridges, weathering of stone buildings and statues, as well as having impacts on human health. Sometimes the acid concentration is so high in lakes, rivers, and streams that fish and other organisms die. And pollution, eutrophication. Sewage consists of nitrate, phosphate, sodium, potassium, calcium, etc., and their additional into water bodies makes it rich in nutrients, especially phosphate and nitrate ions. Those nutrients make the water bodies highly productive or eutrophic, and the phenomenon is called eutrophication. This can be a problem in marine habitats such as lakes, as it can cause algal blooms. Some algae even produce toxins that are harmful to higher forms of life. And eutrophication of water bodies has a negative impact on human health, contributing to the spread of the gastrointestinal and dermatological disease conjunctivitis. Then, through some fish can breathe on land, causing oxygen from air. Most of the fish, when taken out of water, suffocate and die. And then, reduces biodiversity loss. Government legislation, nature preserves reducing amount of invasive species, habitat restoration, captive breeding, and seed banks reduce climate change. Benefits of biodiversity. Preserving biodiversity preserves ecosystem services and directly provides things of pragmatic value to us, like food, fuel, and fiber, shelter and building materials, air and water purification, waste decomposition, climate stabilization and moderation, nutrient cycling, soil fertility, pollination, pest control, genetic resources. Biodiversity zonation. Structure and design of biodiversity reserves. In order to undertake complementary activities of biodiversity conservation and development of sustainable management aspects, biosphere reserves are demarcated into three interrelated zones, like the core zone. The core zone is kept absolutely undisturbed. It must contain suitable habitat for numerous plant and animal species, including higher order predators, and may contain centers of endemism. The core zone secures legal protection and management of research activities that do not affect natural processes and wildlife are allowed. Then the buffer zone. These uses and activities include restoration, demonstration sites for enhancing value addition to the resources, limited recreation, tourism, fishing and grazing, which are permitted to reduce its effect on core zone. And the transition zone. The transition zone is the outermost part of biosphere reserve. The addiction activities in this zone include settlements, croplands, managed forests, and area for invasive creation, recreation, and other economic uses characteristics of the region. Transitional zone, buffer zone, core area, human settlement outside of that. Okay. Then biodiversity hotspot. Biodiversity in India. The biodiversity hotspot is a biogeographic region that is both a significant reservoir of biodiversity and is threatened with destruction. In India, the Himalayas, the Western Ghats, and the Indo-Burma region, and the Sunderland. To these may be added the Sundarbans and the Teridwar savanna grassland for their unique foliage and animal species. The National Park, Sanctuary and Biosphere Reserve. National Park, conservation of species of a habitat with minimal or very low intensity of human activity. No human resides in the park other than a public servant on duty on permitted persons by Chief Wildlife Warden. Core Zone, Wildlife Sanctuary, National Park. Figure we could say. And sanctuaries, conservation of species and habitats by manipulative management. No human resides in sanctuary other than a public servant on duty and permitted persons by the Chief Wildlife Warden. Core, buffer and restoration. Then biosphere reserve, conservation of the natural resources and for the improvement of the relationship between man and the environment therein. Both natural and human influence ecosystems, substream human settlements, rural. Core, buffer, recreational and cultural. Then biosphere reserves in India. It is natural area which is reserved by a government private agency for the protection of particular species. Area is designed. This is about wildlife sanctuary. Area is designated for the protection of wild animals. Only animals are conserved. Could be private property also. Outside activities allowed. It came under the category called protected areas. Protected areas are declared under Wildlife Protection Act 1972. International Union for Conservation of Nature has defined its category 4 types. The National Park, reserve area of land owned by the government. Area is protected from human exploration, industrialization and pollution. No cutting, grazing allowed, outside species allowed. And it came under the category called the protected areas. The protected areas are declared under Wildlife Protection Act 1972. Conservation of wild nature for posterity and a symbol of national pride. Then International Union for Conservation of Nature and in its World Commission on Protected Areas has defined this category 2 types of protected areas. Then biosphere reserve, notified areas which cover a larger area of land which may cover multiple national parks, sanctuaries and reserves as well. Areas are meant for its conservation of biodiversity of a specific area. 3 areas, core, buffer and marginal. No outside species are allowed and conservation recreation purpose. It is internally recognized within the framework of UNESCO's Man and Biosphere Program and nominated by national governments. The red list categories, IUCN red list categories: extinct, threatened, least concern. Extinct in the sense no reasonable doubt that the least individual has died. Extinct in the wild, known only to survive in captivity, cultivation or well outside its natural range. Critically endangered, facing extremely high risk of extinction in the wild. And endangered, facing a very high risk of extinction in the wild. Vulnerable, facing a high risk of extinction in the wild. Near threatened, close to qualifying or likely to qualify for a threatened category in the near future. that is near threatened. Then least concern, population is stable enough that it is unlikely to face extinction in the near future. Data deficient, not enough information on abundance or distribution to estimate its risk of extinction is of least concern category. Extinct, extinct in the wild, threatened, least concern, near threatened. Next is about community ecology. A habitat is a particular place where organisms live and exist. A niche defines a particular role played by organisms in the ecosystem. That's a profession. Ecological niche idea, ecological niche. Profession of an organism that is its trophic position in food webs, how it lives and interacts with the physical environment and with other organisms in its community. The niche breadth and niche shift. Niche breadth is the degree to which a species utilizes all available patches of resources. No two species can sustain coexistently if they occupy the same niche. Cause mixed or two species of paramecium that competed for the same food when population grew rapidly and was more successful at finding food. This is called niche shift. Niche overlaps is a measure of the association of two or more species. This indicates their similar habitat requirement and may also indicate competition if trophic niche, spatial niche is same and food space is limited. Two different parasites on the same host. Increased niche overlap, decreased niche overlap, then increased range of resources.